We are live, sir.
Hey! I like that. What is that? Lord of the Rings towers?
This is actually representative of the sun and the moon in Middle Earth. The sun being carried by Arian, and the moon being carried by Tyrael, I think is his name. He's not as important.
Okay. I was actually referring to the thumbnail on
Slack. Yeah. Thumbnail on Slack. Oh no, that's just an image I picked out for my channel. I found a public domain image that I couldn't get yelled at for using.
And as we know, YouTube will yell at you.
Yes, they will. So I don't do things like that. I'm already running the risk of my entire channel getting me into major copyright issues. So it's
with Tolkien's family.
Yes.
Yeah.
So far so good. It doesn't seem like that it bothers them. So.
But yeah, if people start paying more attention to you, who knows?
Well, so far I have talked about this project to two people who know Christopher Tolkien personally.
Okay.
And no problems yet. I mean, technically what we're doing is for academic purposes only. So.
Gotcha. Well, that's good.
So this is the first time that we've actually spoken in nearly 20 years.
Bizarre, right? But you know, we had to get technology. What, phones? Phones wouldn't have worked.
Yep. Absolutely. So, anyway,
also, back then you were a kid, and it would have been kind of weird for.
It would have been extremely weird.
Who is this strange adult calling?
I remember having to explain Otherspace to my parents, and they were not like, they let me continue doing it, but they were not thrilled. I usually had to, if I was going to play in Otherspace, it was usually very late at night after my family had gone to bed, and I would sneak downstairs.
Wow. What was their, I'm curious now, what was their objection to it?
Well, because this was in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and there was still a lot of internet scare out there. There was still a lot of people worried. Like, if you remember, now I have no problem telling people on Otherspace my real name. That would never have happened in 1998.
Right.
Yeah,
nor should it, at that age especially. It's like, no, you don't start giving that out.
Yeah, well, that's true. But, even so, like, it just wasn't, like, nobody ever used real names until probably about 5-10 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah. That
people started being more comfortable with letting random people on the internet know who they were.
Yeah, well, although even still, you've got plenty of people who would just as soon stay anonymous so that they can say hateful, awful things. But even that doesn't seem to matter anymore, because it seems like it doesn't matter anonymous or not. It's okay to be uncivil.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, internet trolling is now a national pastime.
Yeah, yes it is. Although sometimes it can be occasionally hilarious.
Yes.
But not all the time. Very rarely.
Yeah. From certain people, it could be funny. Like James Gunn trolling the guy that claimed he was Kevin Feige, the guy in charge of Marvel Pictures.
Yes,
that was awesome, because he started trying to troll for information, and Gunn started just telling him all kinds of bizarre, off-the-wall stuff. But yeah, no, it's awesome to get to talk to you. I think I've met in person a handful of people who've been involved in the MUSH. Like, I actually went to New Jersey back in 2000 or so and met Hikaru and Belgart. That was cool. We were on a trip on our way up to New York back then. Who I met Jamie and Boudreaux at Dragon Con right after we started. Soon after that, I really said I need to get hosting somewhere else. They were nice enough guys, but definitely their own kind of people, and not necessarily mine. So yeah, they didn't end up sticking around that long. Met Randa down in Florida at Atronicon a couple of years back. So that was cool.
I said I missed her. She was cool.
Yeah.
I was really sad that she wound up being part of that particular.
Yeah. There's some people I don't miss right there, but yeah, the fact that she got caught up in, because she's really sweet, really nice person. You know, got to meet her. Wish she was still around. I'm still connected to her on Facebook, so I still talk to her from time to time. Like, I think Newt was looking for somebody to do a commissioned picture of him, so I reached out to her, and she was just like, she didn't have time to do it. So I mean, she's still civil, still friendly, but you know, probably not going to be back anytime soon. I was hoping Jess might swing by during the marathon, but she seems like she's real busy. Actually got to meet Chalice back in the day when I went to the Pacific Northwest. She actually helped me get the job at the drone company back when drones were starting to be a thing in White Salmon, Oregon, or Washington, on the Washington side of the border in Hood River. So that was cool. Did that job for like 2 months before Fallen Earth hired me. So that's how that goes.
Yeah, well, I work within like 10 minutes of Hannah's house, so one of these days, my wife and I and her husband will get together, and that'll be cool. But it just, you know, we always all seem to be working on different things that are just too time consuming.
Yeah, and let's see, I met Shane Kolchak actually right after Otherspace started. I think he was in Orlando with his wife visiting Disney World. And I remember we went to this steak restaurant where, was this the time that I think he ordered like the big record-setting steak. You could like order the 32-ounce massive steak, and you know, they'd take your picture and put it on the wall kind of thing. Either he did it there or he told us about having done that. It was a long, long time ago. So that was kind of amusing. But yeah, there haven't been a lot of other people. I think Firemain I met when I went to Portland. And then there were a couple of folks from Chia that I met in the Pacific Northwest as well. But yeah, it's and still being able to keep. I mean, I knew Brian Rucker, who played John Marr. Yeah, was very sad when he passed. Yeah, there have been so many people, and what is kind of hilarious is that, you know, Dolphin I've known for even longer than Otherspace has been around. We both lived in the same state for, you know, dozens of years. And I've never actually met her in person. It's all been Facebook communication or talking on the Mush. So, yeah, the one person who was like my little sister for the longest time, I get to meet her in person. But, you know, not over yet. It's just a matter of finding my way to Miami at some point.
Right. Yeah, and it's... Go ahead. No, I was saying it's interesting, like, because I've moved around a lot, and so I always find I find it very strange when I know people who live in the area that they grew up in, like forever.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that makes perfect sense in a lot of ways, but it's a little alien to me, considering for the past 10 years or so, I've rarely stayed in one place for more than a year. So
I've stayed in places longer than a year, but I am who things changing by the first round. Just over a decade or so was working at the St. Petersburg Times as a journalist. It was like, okay, I found what I wanted to do. But even doing that, I started going, but wait a minute, here's this, text-based gaming thing online. I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
And that became the thing that attracted me and kind of shook things up for what I thought my status quo was going to be.
Right.
And I thought I was going to live in Florida all my life, and said at the last minute in 2004, no, I'm going to go to the Pacific Northwest for a bit with my dog, and stayed there for a little bit, and then realized, well, I don't really want to be there. There's this job working for a game company. I really want to go do that. Did that for a few years, and then, of course, Fallen Earth launches. It doesn't do as well as we hoped, and I'm going to Alabama because, of course, I'm going to go bounce somewhere else. Until I finally settled down back in North Carolina, which is probably the last place I would have imagined. If you had said when I was a kid, you're going to live in North Carolina in the town of Durham, and you're going to meet this wonderful Greek woman and get a kid and maybe two and, start up a family, I would have said, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. So it's kind of amazing and astonishing to me. But it seems like it's all worked out for a purpose. So I'm pretty happy with where things are at. And, I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Had gone back into journalism again at the Herald Sun and saw that job being diminished, more and more diminished. They kept giving me more jobs to justify the paycheck that I was getting paid less for. So it's kind of nice to be in a very stable sort of job where the financing for the company seems stable. It's an industry that's not shrinking. I mean, we're a transportation management software company, and handle everything from trains to boats to planes to drones. So it's kind of come full circle for me on the drone front. So the company keeps getting bigger. It's making more money, and I'm not having to worry that my paycheck next week won't show up because they don't have the funding for it. So that's awesome. But thinking in my head, well, wait, what's the other thing I should be doing? Which it's kind of nice to have Otherspace as this other thing to keep me busy and distracted and focused on the creative stuff. Yeah. And also to do things like talk the choice of games about doing some kind of a Otherspace standalone game. So I'll maybe satisfy some of those wanderlust urges, and then because I've got a family now, and like I look at other jobs for, I've been showing you when they come up, game design opportunities and things like that. They're things that 10 years ago I might have said, yes, I'm going to pursue this. Yeah. But I look at them now and go, oh, this is a game design studio in Austin, or this is a thing in San Diego. Yeah. There is no way in the world that I'm going to pack up my family, uproot everybody, and go try to do this thing, because I know what's coming. Yeah. It is just like working on a TV show. It's like working on a movie, finish that project, and it is not one big happy family. We're going to all keep working on another project down the line. It is done, and you may as well expect that you're going to be let go at the end of that, because your work is done, and either the game really succeeds and then you get picked up to do other projects, which is awesome, or you coast for a little bit until the paychecks stop coming. Yeah, it's a very harrowing thing, and it was bad when I was single. It was worse. It'd be worse if I was doing that when I had a family. So. Yeah,
no, I know the feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's a romantic notion, right? That whole idea of we're going to go do this thing. We're indie game designers, which we were doing with Prologue. I mean, but Colin and I both knew going in working on ED, we're like, we're going to do this as long as we can, but we know how much runway we've got. We know how much money the investors have put into this, and we're not going to spend it all. We're not going to get to a point where one day I come in and he's not showing up and there's no money in the bank. We're going to get to a point where we go, okay, we don't see a horizon where this is going to get better. We're going to cut here, save what money we've got to do the other things that we need to do to keep this project going, and then we'll go do things where other people pay our paychecks.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the responsible thing to do. But you can do that when there's only a couple of you working on the project.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you that over the past year or two, I've definitely been finding creative outlets that I wouldn't have had before. You know, it was very frustrating for me to, you know, go and do the jobs I was doing where it's not something that I like doing. It's just something that keeps the money coming in, you know. But having things like Otherspace and like Film and all the stuff that comes with that, it really makes it a lot easier for me to, you know, to continue with the grind and, you know, try to keep going.
There's actually something comforting in the grind in a way, right? I mean, it's something where while you're working on it, you can think about the creative things you want to do. You can take notes, you can scribble things down as you think about them. That's not something I could do when my full-time job was promoting Knee Deep. That's not something I could do when my full-time job was chasing down police beat stories for the newspaper. There was always, you know, one more thing on the scanner to have to go after. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, on one sense, there's like the creative snob side of me that goes, my job tomorrow or my job on Monday morning will be to go in and start playing in the help and manual software and building sections of a document and, you know, going in and looking at software and seeing how it works and then breaking down the nuts and bolts of it. Boring, but oh my God, when I'm doing that, I get the music on, I'm listening to that, and it's kind of mindless work to a certain extent, but it lets me do the other thinking. Like, what am I going to do with Betchkov next? What am I going to do with Armand Levante? What's going to happen? What kind of stories? That's how I started thinking about the Choice of Games project, where it's like, well, maybe I should reach out to them and see if there's something I can do with that. So there's definitely a benefit to having a job where the main demand is just producing something, a widget, a document, just something to show that it's useful to people, but it doesn't tax you so much that at the end of the day, you don't want to do anything else. You don't want to feel like you're drained. So, yeah, I do like where I'm at. Having the kid is an even bigger challenge, but I don't know. There's the whole leading by example thing with him too. It's, you know, I want him to feel encouraged to be creative and to, you know, have fun with his imagination. I was a little discouraged actually a year or so ago when I was joking around with him about something, and he talked about how, oh, that's not real. That's not the Paw Patrol. Those aren't real. They're cartoons. I'm like,
Aw.
I think they're real. And what's funny is, like, now he does the pretending thing. He does little scenes in the back of the car where he's got his Paw Patroller and he gets Ryder out and he starts giving mission orders. So I don't know, he was in a weird window of, you know, his imagination wasn't quite kicking in yet at 3, but at 4 it's going full tilt. So
yeah, well, that kind of thing happens. I remember, so as we've talked about before, I'm the oldest of 5. And there were a lot of situations when we would be out playing in the yard, and I would just make up this world that we would be inhabiting. And, like, I mean, I'm 8, 9 years old, and I'm role playing in the backyard with my sisters and my little brother, and that's how we played. But a lot of times, younger children aren't able to expand that far yet. The idea that they're saying, oh, this thing that I'm seeing on the screen right in front of me isn't real, I can understand that would be a little,
right,
you know.
Right. But being able to imagine it and pretend that it's real for me right now, because I just remember being a kid playing with Star Wars action figures and the Millennium Falcon and all that stuff. It was like, real enough. That's real enough for me.
Yeah.
I want him doing that. And he started doing that. So I was glad to see it. He is, by the way, the current update is he's napping. He exhausted himself playing in the swimming pool and eating Chick-fil-A. So he is now passed out, sleeping at his aunt's house, visit his grandparents. So yay for grandparents being in town. They normally live in Florida, but they have a house up here in Durham, and they come up at least a few months of the year to be here and get to see him. I guess they get to see me some of the time. They're okay with, but they really want to see him.
Oh, yeah,
he's the real draw.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. There's a reason why my parents are moving to Virginia, because that's where 2 of their grandchildren live.
Yeah, and I'm all for that because, you know, date night happens because grandparents are available and the babysitting is free.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
But so it's interesting because I've said to you personally, and also in you know, in reviews and stuff like that, that Otherspace is a place where a lot of us grew up.
Yeah.
And
wild.
Right. And so, like, to us, Otherspace is like the galaxy far, far away, or, you know, or the Federation, or like that's it fills that same space in our minds. So I'm just wondering when you realized that was happening, or if you've ever really grasped how much of an effect that's had.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever grasped that sort of thing. I don't think I've ever gotten to the point where I feel like I'm a Gene Roddenberry kind of thing. But I mean, I think I definitely got a sense of what it meant to the people within that circle, to the people who got involved, got it, have stuck with it all this time. I definitely think that there are people who see a value in it from the creative standpoint, you know, from the investment of time and energy building these characters, telling these stories. And that's super humbling to me because, you know, I just wanted to have kind of a playground. And initially it was a selfish thing. I wanted to do the stories that I wanted to do, and you guys could participate. But what I will say became more and more fun you know, people could come up with, especially the really original ones. I was kind of characters that were obvious knockoffs of other characters that were real things in other media. Somebody being Doctor Who, somebody being Remy LeBeau, like literally Remy LeBeau. But seeing somebody like Dahan doing the pregnant Centauran thing, seeing Kolchak come up with the idea for the Pneumoni and how much trouble the little Pneumoni ships would cause just because, you know, we had the objects lying around and somebody would enter them because the code allowed them to, which gave us the idea for the Pneumoni hats and people getting stuck inside them, and which generated news stories. It's just the little things that could happen and generate stuff because of the actions that players took and the things that they did with their characters. That has always been more fun to me and more interesting to me than any plot. I mean, as horrible as the destruction of Latera was, what a kind of an amazing moment is it that a player has the ability to take a stand like that and take an action because it's been established in the lore of the game that this planet is riddled with explosive veins of chemicals and minerals, and just blows the damn thing up, and we let them. That sort of thing has a real, for good or ill, this, you know, real reverberating effect of saying your actions have consequences. What you do as a player matters, whether we always like it or not. Those are the kinds of things that I think mattered a lot more than, you know, Niedermeyer coming back from the dead for the 5th time, or you know, Porter leading an expedition to go explore something. It was always, what are the interesting things that, you know, Blackstone is doing on Savad, and what are Raskaya, where we might not have seen eye to eye all the time, the version that Raskaya had of Ungstyr was pretty interesting and always seemed active. Jeff Ryan and the Watchers, the stuff that they did, thing was always appealing to me. And when more and more people started doing that, that's where I started getting more comfortable branching out with other characters. That's where I'd start playing Knuckles and, you know, some lesser character who could be interesting, Duke Buchanan, where, you know, all I'm doing is bringing something that, you know, makes ripples and gives people something to bounce off of, and isn't so much the character that comes in, or the plot bunny that comes in and tears things up and, you know, rips the universe up. It's more about I'm contributing what other people are contributing, which is something interesting, like jazz music, than from a script. But yeah, it's never quite sunk in for me. Maybe because we were really kind of big within our niche in the early 2000s, but it kind of came and then went.
Right.
Because once World of Warcraft hit, everything in the mush and mud world just kind of started shriveling up.
Yeah.
You know, and we went through our own contractions based on you know, people having disagreements with the way the story went. So you had creative drama, breakup kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You had interpersonal strife between people who some had romantic feelings, others didn't, and this was in real life, out of character kind of thing. And then you just had the people drawn away by the new shiny. I mean, it is hard to have to pay attention for long spans of time to a Telnet mush screen than it is to watch my phone, and every once in a while it pops up saying that there's a notification on Slack.
Right.
And it's, you know, one of many notifications that I get about Twitter or the Associated Press or something coming up, all that stuff on my phone. And I don't have to sit and watch the mush screen roll by.
Oh yeah, like, because I remember running scenes in the Orion Confederacy. That, you know, if you wanted to have an action scene of any kind that had more than 2 or 3 people in it, you're talking about 6, 7, 8 hours to get that finished minimum. Just because, you know, and I do remember that happening faster earlier on. But there were 2 things going on there. One, I feel like we were all of us older and more mature and wanted to do better writing. So that's part of it. So we're sitting there typing longer poses, as opposed to, you know, when we were 15, 16, we were just saying exactly what we wanted our person to do, and that was it.
Right.
But also because people were doing other things while they're waiting for something for 4 people to type this long pose.
4 if you're lucky. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's not just posing; it's, you know, usually dice rolls and figuring out action cards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just got so long and involved that every scene just became a chore to try to do it. Yeah. Which I think one of the reasons I'm not in a huge hurry to try to introduce sheets and cards and that sort of thing here on Slack is just that I worry that it's going to get into that situation again. Although, you know, now maybe it wouldn't be so bad because we understand what we're going to roll when we roll, or we can roll before we even start the scene. We know what we're going to do. You know, we can figure it out. But for now, I'm good, as I think you probably are, just with running with what we've got until we, you know, feel like, well, I really want my character to win this. Or, you know, if we get to a point where I feel like I want my character to win something, there is something wrong. Always been my feeling. I've never felt like it was my role to make a character necessarily win. I felt like there were times when I wanted a plot to go a certain way, that yes, you know, the Kryptonians are going to come in and they're going to chase everybody off on Sanctuary. That's going to happen. But going into a situation where I think, no, I'm definitely, you know, going to kill this guy. I mean, the scene where I killed Tixon, I was joking about this last night, but there was the Timony character named Tixon in the tavern on Tomenkora, and he had been pushing Knuckles' buttons for a while, for a few scenes. Unfortunately, all you ever see really is this scene in that log, where Texon comes in, picks his last fight with Knuckles, demanding his stuff back, which had been, I guess, had been taken from him when he was dumped in the arena or something that the Cabrera people had done. When Knuckles had knocked him down or was getting ready to kill him, I specifically turned to another player in the scene and essentially gave them the, do you want me to do this or should I not? You know, they became, the Emperor in Gladiator doing the thumbs up, thumbs down thing, and the thumbs down. And so that was when I went ahead and said, okay, I'm cutting his throat and ending his misery. So it was not so common, I think, for me to kill off a character just for no good reason on a whim.
Unless it was one of Lithimal's horses, that's perfectly fine.
Unless it was who?
Unless it was one of Lithimal's horses, apparently that's perfectly fine.
Well,
but yeah, no, it makes sense because you're able to increase the level of peril without actually killing anybody.
Yeah. Well, I think my favorite thing on Chiaroscuro was with one of the Kahar guys. He had decided to ride his horse into the river, and he had like all the armor and everything. It was on him. It was on the horse, and I actually ended up drowning his horse in the river and nearly drowned him because he had to strip all the armor off before he drowned. I don't think he liked that very much. It was Thomas Kahar. Was that his Thomas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was not my biggest fan after I did that. I'm like, it could have been worse. I could have drowned you. I could have just totally ended you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that
I prefer to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking that, you know, one of the things, because I know that a lot of people got bothered by some of the big changes that took place.
Mm-hmm.
It never really bothered me that way, mostly because I kind of enjoy making my characters miserable, in a way. Like anytime that I can make Razorback more crazy. Yeah, that's a good day.
Well, I mean, there is, I kind of sense that, which there's the reason that I had the sniper make that choice between, do I take the easy kill of everybody down in the gorge with the rocket launcher, or do I shoot the cave, which is going to trap Razorback. Both of them interesting, funny, but I'm going to try to keep them, since the explosion will have been heard down in the gorge, I may try to get White Pelt to kind of encourage everybody, maybe we should go up and see if we can help, because somebody's going to do something about Sniper Lady before she reloads. I think I think I definitely had a thing for change for the sake of change sometimes. I don't have that anymore. I've gone very Danny Glover on that. I'm too old for it. You know, there's a lot of part of it was, again, I told you I'm kind of addicted to the whole change thing of living in a kind of chaotic environment where I'm moving from place to place or changing jobs or going and doing something new, and change up the theme of the mush or change what year it is. Well, then I have to go redo the website. Then I have to go redo the wiki, and it kind of fed all this addiction to changing stuff. You know, now it's like I like adding stuff to the existing website. I like adding stuff to the wiki, not so much with the changing it wholesale from bottom to top. I may throw a new theme skin on the website to try to experiment with that, but it may change typefaces, but I really don't like redoing all the content. Yeah. All that work.
I mean, I remember the last time that we moved over to this wiki that we're using now, I remember going, oh man, I have to copy over my my wiki pages for all my guys, and that's work. I don't know if I'm gonna do that.
It's some of the easiest work ever, though. I mean, you're just copying and pasting.
Well, yes, but when I do that, though, then I feel compelled to fill in the whatever has happened since the last time that this happened. So,
And the
like, what's up?
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Yeah, no, I was saying that that every time that would happen, I would also feel compelled to fill in all the history that had happened since the last time. I mean, there's a reason why Razorback's wiki page reads like a freaking novel, and it's still not even close to current. Like, it's current as of like 5 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, so let's keep adding more to him. Well, I think that's why there's some benefit to the whole player saga approach now, because at least you could start pointing to, okay, go to this player saga page, and you can see here's what he's been up to lately.
Yeah.
I wish we'd been doing that from the beginning, but especially when we were up around 100 people on at any given time, that was impossible. So many people were doing their own thing and didn't have that much necessarily to do with me, that I wasn't always everywhere logging everything.
Yeah.
You know, contrary to what some people believed, I did not have eyes everywhere. Yeah, not until later. Not until
for a little bit. There was a little while where there was happening.
Well, yeah, there was the period after Doctor Who and Friend departed, because there was so much of that he said, she said, she said crap that was going on, and I was just fed up with it, because I'm not going to put up with this crap anymore. It's my playground, and I need to know what's going on, and if I'm getting multiple types of stories from everybody, I'm going to get whatever answers I need from the record. I'm sure that had a huge chilling effect. So
yeah, I had so many times where I was just like, look, can't we just get along? Like, I have, you know, decent relationships with both of these people. How is it possible that they can't stand each other? Yeah.
Yeah, and what happened to, you know, before I started recording everybody's actions? I mean, they were not the first people to have behaved like that and behaved badly. I had to deal with quite a few situations with different players who had these things where they were kind of clawing at each other, either directly or indirectly through proxies, and having to referee that stuff was just exhausting sometimes, to the point where, I mean, even though I hadn't done it mush wide until the one period after our two friends were leaving, I was monitoring like individual people. I would tell them, I'm watching you. I them much has log on an individual all the time. I never went and read it unless somebody said so and so did something bad. I'm gonna you should go check, and I went and checked, and you know, sometimes they had done something bad, sometimes they had not, or they'd blown it out of proportion. Either way, just I don't miss that kind of stuff, and I actually like the other thing selfishly about Slack is it's a pretty transparent sort of thing, and it is, you're going to have to go to some work to fake somebody abusing you on Slack. I mean, you may be able to Photoshop some kind of a direct message thing, but
well, the direct message, like, that's the only way that you could do that without everybody seeing everything you're doing. It's not like the Mush where you have an individual room. Once you type in the command, it's too late. They can't find out, you know, unless it's the keystrokes being logged.
Yeah. You know, so yeah, it is nice not to really have that to worry about anymore. But I do miss things like having rooms. I miss being able to walk around and have a sense of the place.
Yeah.
That is missing. And if there's a way to start adding that in, I'm going to try to think about that. But it's tough. I mean, what, try to do a thread for every room, and then what? You can't do threads within threads.
Well, what you could do is have descriptions of individual rooms on the wiki. So if a thread is taking place in that room, you can go onto the wiki, find that description, and you could link it or just copy paste it, whatever it is that you wanted to do.
Sure.
You know, when you walk into a room, you can put a link to your description of your character, so that people can see that. Another thing, though, I think that not having rooms actually kind of gives us an opportunity. Where are you going? My backdrop is moving.
You have a storm? Are you getting ready to go to Oz?
Yeah. No, one of the dogs must have gone down.
Nice.
But I think it does kind of give us an opportunity to open up the world in a way that didn't exist in the Mush. Because, I mean, yeah, you kind of know that, like, the consortium has this big fleet of ships and whatnot, but you only ever see one or two, because those are the ones that people play on, and those are the ones that have rooms. And I feel like not being bound to that as much might actually have benefits. You know, like, you can, like, I don't think we ever really thought about, at least I didn't think about, like, what's the actual size of the space that we're in. You know, how fast do the faster than light drives that we're using go? How you know, how do you prevent an invading force from just going to your home world without, you know, without being, you can't stop them unless you have some method of doing that. So
right.
You know, I mean, these are things that you never really thought about. We never really thought about before because of the limits of the coding on the Mush.
Sure, the creative constraints we put on ourselves. Well, and just think about the scene we have on Earth right now, where we did a commute from the airport to downtown, and you know, the idea of scope, you know, through town, and have to going for that walk down a bunch of different corridors. We just said, here we are, we're at the place, we've gotten here, and we're doing the important part of what are the characters doing, what are they learning, how's the story progressing.
Right, we're moving at the speed of the plot.
Right.
Which is, you know, when you're handling a situation like that, that's the way that you would do it. Also, on the Mush, everybody walks everywhere because, like, because nobody's thinking about it, about the terms of, oh, I have to get to the other side of the city. I probably need to get into a vehicle.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think I love the idea of being able to be liberated from a grid to just go to a new place, do a new thing, and to see parts of the game you wouldn't ordinarily see, part of the world. You know, a place like the Rucker being just some fuel tanker out in the middle of nowhere that you might not normally get to see. You know, and characters being involved in that you wouldn't necessarily see. You know, the quartermaster who handles their hazmat stuff. What's his job like? What's his experience like? That's the kind of thing that I like to see. You know, when you're bound by character objects and rooms in a grid, you don't get to experiment as much necessarily. I mean, you can still do emits and create that stuff on the fly, but the environment doesn't, like you were talking about, it doesn't really foster that. The environment on the Mush pretty much fosters, here are the parameters you've got. Play in the Rockhopper Tavern. That's where you've got. Right. Even though Ungsteer maybe is still a pretty big tavern kind of place, you would think they would have more than one pub. They might have little speakeasies and, you know, little hangouts where, you know, like opium dens or something. They would have different spaces to play in, but if players, all they see is, well, this is what's here, this is what's here, the brain kind of just goes to those things, and that's where you see all the action taking place. So yeah, I agree. I think we're really opening up the possibility, and I think with the wiki, I think that's a really good suggestion. of having just a collection of these are the things where the places where things can happen on each world, and maybe that's the kind of thing that we document in the wiki, because that sort of thing can change. I mean, we talk about like you used to tag descriptions. If we run an event where the Rockhopper Tavern gets destroyed, well, maybe we go in and say, well, if you do anything in the Rockhopper, this is what it looks like now.
Right. And if somebody wants to add a new place that they're playing in, like the random cave in the middle of nowhere that Razorback and Bluefang wound up going to, after stealing a truck, like, which wouldn't have happened on the grid. Like, that's not how that would have gone down.
Well, the whole sequence was like the whole never would have happened on the grid thing. Going to the jumping from one building to the next, smashing through.
I've done stuff like that before. That was
well, code-wise, you couldn't do it.
Yes.
And if you're also creative, you would think about things like that. I think some people might not necessarily think about it because, well, I'm in a building and there's no exit that says window, jump through here.
Right.
If you're a Damarian and you have the ability to do that kind of leaping thing from building to building. So I think that there's definitely more we can do. And yeah, stealing a truck, that was like this random, well, we can just do that because here we are. It's a street. There's going to be trucks.
Well, if you think about it, like, how else would they get away? On the Mush, probably what would have happened was the scene probably would have ended there, or we would have just moved to the next room, and that would have, we wouldn't have thought about it beyond that. But because we're in this situation where it's all free form and all flowing, you kind of have to think, wait, the police are after us. They're going to have vehicles. Like, it's not gonna just end there. That's not what would happen. Now, on the flip side, there is a part of me that does miss the sheet. I mean, I'm a big systems nerd. I have, transcribed Otherspace into most of the systems I know. I've done. I have written up pretty complex rule sets of varying levels of complication that could be used on Otherspace. So I do enjoy like that crunchy gaming quality to it. And I've been known to make up characters that take advantage of the system to do crazy, like, there's no way that this could ever be
pretty extraordinary passion. Few people are ever going to forget the River Cam moment. That was amazing.
Yeah, people have told me, like, oh my gosh, I remember that time that Razorback jumped 3 stories down into a street and roared in the face of these two Okami pirates, and they just took off and ran the other way. Like, that kind of thing. I designed characters specifically that do that. Of course, they're terrible at other things.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of comic effect too. I mean, the one of my favorite more recent scenes was the Flips folks I think it was Razorback, right? That went after the dudes in the military base.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and you ended up riding on a sandworm.
Yeah.
And kind of getting bounced around. It was like this almost comical thing where you're jumping on it and, yeehaw. Holy crap.
Right, yeah, because he's not going to shoot things. He's not going to hit them. Like, don't ask him to fly your ship because, like, he can't do that.
Right.
He can barely use a computer. Like, he's just not tech savvy at all. So when he was the Secretary of Defense for the Orion Confederacy, if he wanted to send a message to someone, he would write it down on a piece of paper and hand it to someone and send them off to go deliver it. Like, that's just the way he thinks about things. Or just show up randomly himself, which was always hilarious because, suddenly Damarian, and that's, Damarians can be terrifying. Damarians, Zangali, Centaurans can be absolutely terrifying under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
Zangali were
Zengali were always my favorite for sort of the looming, terrifying, quietly ominous, menacing kind of thing. And then, yeah, Centaurans, especially when you found out that Centaurans could be warlike.
And when we popped into the...
Yeah, that when you go, oh, they can do that sort of thing. Oh, yeah, that makes them kind of evil sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Damarians just, immediately, they're lions, man. Don't stick your head in their face. They won't chew it off.
Well, I think it was around 2006 or so that I started to really inject that kind of brutality into Razorback's combat. And I think the only Damarian I've ever seen do stuff like that is probably Quicksilver. Like most of them are pretty composed. I want to say that, like they're just above that sort of thing. Razorback's not above that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think Stuntpaw tends to be above that sort of thing.
Yeah.
He usually has people to do the bloody work.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah.
But I think you can still be menacing and ominous, and even savage, but you can still be kind of above the actual physical violence. It's just mental violence.
Yeah.
And I think Stumpy can be guilty of that. I've had several characters over the years that have been mentally violent. And I don't know what that says about me sometimes. I don't feel like I'm that way in real life. And maybe that's why, because I've had these ways to vent characters. But, I mean, Niedermeyer, when you just talk about playing against type, he's a character who throws reporters out of windows when literally my job at the time was being a reporter.
Little did you know.
That sending. I don't know. But Niedermeyer, I mean, honestly, I talk about him being, this weird id, violent id thing for me. But really, it was just a chance to play a beefed up George C. Scott looking version of Niedermeyer from Animal House. It was just the guy that yells at your recruits in what the hell, the ROTC, right? And he's or JROTC, and he's there to yell, and he's just like an amplified version of Niedermeyer. So, any chance I had to kind of give him a comeuppance, I would try to take it. Like when the lemming attacked, and he goes and hides under a desk on Tomen Korra, the big tough guy who makes people break their own fingers, or shoot the dude because he's, his name is Pulver and he wants to make a pun about pulverization. A guy like that deserves to have bad things happen to him, which is, why I had things like the pneumonia end up being the blow him up, because he spends all this time cooking them, sticking toothpicks into them, doing horrible, horrible things. So ultimately, you have something bad happen to them related to that.
Yeah.
Plot, people. So yeah, but I mean, let's see. Other than him, who have I had that was really mean? Volstov was kind of mean.
Yeah. Who was was he the one that
like?
Who was the Volistan villain?
Yeah, villains are fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Fedya Odell became, like, he just was a nothing character when I started out, and he became kind of this very id character for me, this kind of sociopathic, like, nothing is wrong to him.
Well, he's Jane. He's Jane in Firefly, right? He's been
only small. He's a smaller version of Jane.
Right. A tiny Jane.
Well, it's funny because, like, it started out because they were camped out on New Luna, and the New Luna military was a big thing at the time, and everybody in the New Luna military was just so aggressively, like, they bullied him so much, and it just started building and building and building, and all of a sudden I realized, oh, this guy would snap. This guy would totally snap and just murder people and feel perfectly fine about it the next day. Like, I started realizing that about this character. I didn't know that until it started happening. You know, I didn't know who Livermore was until he started riding back and forth across Fast Hell trying to fix everything all the time.
And you realize he was just the chronic White Knight.
Right, yeah. Well, I had originally designed him I had in mind to kind of restore like the kind of snotty noble thing, because that wasn't really happening in Chia at the time.
Yeah.
But then it turned out that it was impossible by then. You couldn't do that and have people want to play with you.
Which is so sad.
It is. It is. But I do like taking because there's a lot of there really is a lot of modern storytelling where the nobility are always like really horrible people. And so to take that and really, like, what would a noble be like if they actually did what they were supposed to do? And
they get their head cut off at the end of Game of Thrones.
That's exactly what would happen. You're right.
Ned Stark, you know, I'm reading Game of Thrones, I'm like, Ned Stark, he's such an awesome character, he just flies in the face of conventions. Bam! End of the book, he's dead. I'm like, that's why. Because in noble society, you get stabbed in the back.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I had been playing Livermore for maybe 6 months before he wound up in a duel with Norin Lamasa, who is easily the best swordsman in Fast Hell. And so, like, that was, you know, so I was realizing, oh, this guy is not, like, he's not going to make it unless. So it actually turned out to be a good thing, the shift into the Ancient Expanse for him, because there were less people who were going to just obliterate him.
Yeah, maybe, or they just be able to obliterate him faster. I mean, I love the whole Wonder Antom and Korra thing right now, because he's just stumbling from one person who could kill him without blinking to another. And you know, I keep hoping, I'm like, okay, eventually we're going to get this story to the null and just see what happens when
right.
Liz
it's going to be really interesting.
It up. But that's going to be amazing to see that come together.
I mean, now he's another guy who doesn't necessarily have a problem with violence, but he has to have a good reason for it. You know, the threshold for Razorback to commit a violent act is way lower. Like, it's not even close. Like, there is no way that Louisville would have thrown that guy off the freaking roof of the side of a building. Like, he would have just taken his chances. He would have just said, "It's not the right thing to do. I'm gonna suffer consequence. I know I'm gonna suffer consequences for not killing this guy and not doing the pragmatic thing. But I'm just going to take that. I'm just going to absorb the consequences of that."
Yep. Yeah, it's a trip. That was a good scene too. That was fun. Kind of getting that character up and running long enough to have him hurled out a window.
Racism. I don't really like. I've told people before, I don't really have as much control over this character as you think. He just kind of does things. I don't really have that much conscious control over what he's going to do.
But I find it interesting when he does things like that, because it saves me having to have the sniper on the other building shoot my guy in the head.
Right.
Because, you know, I have my plan B in case you don't do the really outrageous.
You probably kind of expected that to not happen.
Yeah, right. Well, I think I knew going in with Razorback for that one that he was pretty pissed about what had been happening, and the fact that Blue Fang had been killed on Galactics. All that was still kind of pushing his mind.
He was so irritated because, like, I just went through all this to save this guy's life, and nope, that didn't work.
Yep. So being able to take it out on somebody, I thought, yeah, that's probably going to happen. Yeah, so that was fun. Sharpers is an interesting character to me, but all I really have is free. I'm really looking, and she's, you know, dabbled with our characters a little bit. But again, only kind of, she's been an engineer hiding down in engineering, and has only really done a couple of interactions with Betchkov and Sienach. So I don't know. Well, she's probably going to head back to Tomenkora at some point. Maybe she'll take Lid to Nalham.
Oh God!
In a bag.
That sounds terrible. Well, she might end up crossing paths, or she might end up crossing paths with Ken and Odell, which that could be really interesting.
Yeah, that could be cool. So I'm really looking forward to how these storylines kind of cross paths. That's going to be interesting. So yeah, it's a fun time.
It's so funny.
I don't remember
to watch Cam and Odell working together, because Cam is not the bad guy she thinks she is. Like, of the two of them,
she wants to be.
Right. And of the two, see, and the funny thing is, Odell would probably be pretty content to just go off by, you know, for the two of them to just go off by themselves and live by themselves for the rest of their lives and never bother anybody. But being that he's in the world he's in, he's going to win. Like, he's, you know, like, he's just, he doesn't care. Like, other people's lives don't matter. Other people's stuff doesn't matter. He just doesn't care. It's almost as bad as Comedy. Comedy tops it out. He is the most evil character I've ever played, bar none.
That was a great way to kind of kick things off for the new Otherspace, was having this massive sort of capture. It ticked all the boxes for, you know, space opera, space battles, big Leviathan in space, militaries coming together, and little personal stories going on at the same time. Yeah, that was just great, kind of seeing the that whole Ego the Giant Planet, living planet kind of thing that Comedy was doing, of you know, his little judgments of, you know, they don't deserve to live. I need food. This is, you know, I'm being very pragmatic about it.
Yeah.
Space monster. So yeah, it's kind of cool that we kind of kick things off with what amounts to a sort of Loch Ness monster for the story to be lurking around out there. And that it's a player monster, not one of my things, is really cool.
Well, in a way, the things that he's doing are very, very resonant with villains that you have played, that you have portrayed, and in a way, he's kind of the opposite of the way that I think about things. In the same way that Niedermeyer and Buchanan were very, very different from the way that you think about things. You know, you were kind of you were illustrating the thing that you hated.
Yeah,
bullies in a way.
Yeah, bullies and you know, intolerance and all that sort of thing. Yeah, and again, giving a chance for those things to get their comeuppance for people that I consider bad actors to have something happen to them. Yeah, I think there's definitely some truth to that.
You know, and Comedy is that for me, because I think that nihilism is, like, it's a dumb and useless philosophy. Like, it really is. Like, why bother doing anything at all? Like,
yeah, just lay down and go away and don't bother anybody. Yeah,
right. Like, you're not. It's not worth. Life isn't worth living if that's the case. If nothing matters, life isn't worth living. Why bother living for 22 million years?
Living is a lot of work, and nihilism is. Wasn't it Big Lebowski? It must be exhausting for you. It's just to be that focused on not caring about anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I am just not able to be that uncaring. So yeah, I think Comedy is a fascinating character. Sadly, will not be in many pub scenes.
No, not really. But I am glad that Kolchak let me bring back his guy.
Yeah.
As like the Silver Surfer, which is fantastic.
Yeah. I love the reanimation idea. I liked how that it kind of reminds you. Have you read the Expanse books?
No, I haven't.
Okay. The Expanse books are great. There is a character basically stole the idea kind of from Battlestar Galactica, the 2005 version of it, where Caprica 6 keeps appearing to Baltar in his mind. So there's a character who dies in the Expanse books, brought back by this alien entity. Another character, and I love that idea of a character he is real to this person. He's kind of a puppet, manipulation of atoms and matter, and has some kind of a consciousness, but can't really act on his own so much. He's definitely more like a puppet.
Yeah.
So that is pretty fascinating to me. It reminds me a little bit of like the Theorians, when we had the character everybody could share. The pack of cats. It's kind of along those lines, where it's like, okay, you've got to work. Comedy and Kotick's character John are the same. Basically, James. Yeah. Well, he's basically John McClane.
Yes.
But
yes, he is.
It's James McCrane.
Yes.
So there's still, James is now an extension of Comedy with kind of the consciousness, but doing his bidding, and probably not really capable of fighting against that. So it's kind of that neat combination of things there. So it was a really neat idea, and I hope you guys get to do more with that. It is, and I'm glad that that's the kind of thing that, again, people get to see in the channels when they go on Slack. It's like they can go in, find it, and there it is. It's not lost to time like it would be if it was on the Mush itself.
Yeah,
so.
Unless we happen to log it. One of the, so one of the really interesting things about that is that James is essentially, in a way, also trying to mitigate the damage that Comedy does also.
Yeah. So he's becoming like a Jiminy Cricket.
Right. So that when Comedy is completely fixed and starts terrorizing the galaxy again, there's somebody to kind of like slow his roll a little bit.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. Yeah, because Savad's going to be waiting. They're going to be out there hunting, and the Null were not happy, and the Vanguard, of course, is pissed off.
I had thought about starting to engage with the exploration threads. However, there's a problem there because I'm in 2 of those, and the other one has I'm in 3 of those. 3, 2.
You're in Null. You've got Akron, you've got Vrex, and Siamak, right? So
So that leaves Galactics, who is also James. So Galactics and Comedy would be an epic showdown.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, we might have to break out the sheets for that one. I don't think either of you would want to lose necessarily.
Not one-on-one. Like, I'm willing to lose to, like, if I hadn't been able to think out of a way to escape, because like I'm reading the descriptions and all of a sudden I realize, oh wait, he can just go straight up. It's like there's nobody there.
Right.
But if I would have been okay with him getting killed in that situation. One-on-one, it's like egos kind of do get involved a little bit there.
Right. Well, that's why I was all in favor of the idea of just beating the hell out of Comedy and letting him get away with a lot of scars and that sort of thing. Because it's not like the way I looked at it from a referee's perspective is I didn't have that much skin in the game, right? I'm not losing. There are no players on the other side of this going, you just tore my ship in half and left me. It's like all my guys. I'm just like, okay, you're scattering my pieces around. well, I want that chaos. I want this to look like a dangerous part of the universe, and that you're this caged, cornered animal thing, and you're just trying to bust out, and that's your motivation at that point. I want that to look like the maximum kind of carnage, which is why I said, sure, you're going to snap that destroyer in half, and then that turns into its own surprise. You as a player with a consequence like that was like a nice twist. I'm like, okay, you gave me a twist, I'm gonna give you a twist. Everybody's twisting.
Well, it's like when you know there was. I remember we did like a mock fight between Razor and Akamatsu once, and you know, like obviously we have to rely on cheats there because we've both done this on purpose. We have both created these meat grinders on purpose, and that was the whole point. Like the whole point of having that scene was really just to have fun with who's actually going to win, who would win in a fight. You know, which of these two. You know, Batman versus Captain America. Like that was what that was. Which is, you know, which has its own entertainment value. It wasn't a story thing. It was just fun in that way. But having Comedy and Galactics mixing it up by themselves in the middle of nowhere in the universe, it would be a very similar thing. Because for one thing, I would hate to see Galactics go down. Like that would make me very sad because I think Galactics is a great character.
Yeah, and has been around for so long.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. You know, it's like, you know, I feel like one day Razorback's going to die. But he's got to die surrounded by, like, piles of corpses. Like, that's how that's got to go down. Like, that's the way that has to happen. You know, having him die like a kind of a meaningless death doesn't do anything for the character. You know, it doesn't do anything for the story. There are certain characters who I could have killed, you know, innocuously almost, and it would just be part of the story. It wouldn't bother me. You know, Odell will probably get shot by somebody. It'll be one of those scenes like on TV where you weren't, or in a film more likely, where you weren't expecting this person to die, and then suddenly they're just dead, and the film moves on, and you're like, wait, what, like,
right?
Like, I'd be okay with that. You know, Shinnok is another one who, you know, if he bit it, you know, like, yeah, I mean, he's good at what he does. He's very good at what he does. But he can, like, I'm okay with the idea of him being kind of cannon fodder.
Yeah.
But, and I'm sure you've had villainous characters that you kind of feel that way as well. You know?
Graber Brenholt, right? Or Bishop Garvin, he was also known, was definitely one where all I did was play him for the purpose of getting him killed. I did not expect that he would ultimately die by getting hit in the head with a rock by Remy LeBeau. I thought he would get a more glamorous demise. But no, he got pummeled in the head with a rock. But yeah, there are definitely characters that I play going, I am just going to push every button I can on this player. And Remy was always very easy to push buttons on. Until they do something, and he didn't have a gun handy. I think that's the only reason. And somehow he had lost his stick. He just found a rock, picked it up, and brained Brenholt with it. So I mean, Brenholt, he had kidnapped Kip. He had done all this horrible stuff, basically arranged for terrible things to happen. So yeah, it kind of built up to where everybody wanted to kill him.
Yeah. Well,
then there are characters that I don't necessarily want to get killed, like Jacob Gettleman. I mean, I want him to just suffer because he's an ambulance chasing lawyer. You know, don't tell my wife. She doesn't chase ambulances, but yeah, having a character that I used to piss people off so that they would, you know, do embarrassing things to him. Like he ends up in the Sanctuary Olympics in the fencing competition and gets his ass kicked by a null. you know, that was fun to kind of embarrass him with that. But yeah, or I'm trying to think of other characters that were just kind of, well, I mean, Knuckles, I think is kind of like that, where he's a character I just played, but if he got killed in a bar fight, if things had gone differently with Tixon, and Tixon had had a better role during that scene, I would not have been super upset if Tixon won the fight and Mike and Knuckles had died.
You know, so I wonder if under these circumstances, people will be less likely to get upset about things that happen to their characters. So, like, I'm thinking about the Twin Moons situation, and you weren't really around a whole lot at the time.
No, I think I remember hearing about it.
Yeah. So basically, the whole thing, the way the whole thing started is Vadim and Razor got a ship and a crew together under the control of Twin Moons, and the owner of Twin Moons was like, "There's this guy that I want you to kill, and it's Rillaton." Now, Razor hasn't seen Rillaton in four years, like however long he was missing. So he's like, "Yeah, I can't stand that guy. Sure, no problem." And so they get there, they get to Savad, and Razor finds out that actually Rillaton is now coupled with Tiana, who was a member of Swiftfoot's crew, and there was all that history with Swiftfoot, and Razor was just, I'm not going to kill him. Like, I'm not going to do it. And I also know that if I don't get involved, they're not going to be able to pull it off. Because Rillaton's a dangerous guy, you know, like that. We had to work through an actual plan that was kind of dependent on Razorback getting into a fight with this guy in the dark. Like, that was the way that was going to, like, that was pretty much the way that was going to work. So Razorback was like, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. And so he went back to Twin Moons and confronted Daria and said, hey, I'm not going to do this. You're going to release Vadim and his crew from this job. And she was like, why on earth would I do that? He's like, well, you know, you got me here. I'll take the consequences, whatever they're going to be. And she basically locked him up and turned him into her own personal monster. Because he was also he was actually crazy at the time.
Okay.
But I was having a ball. Like, I got to do I did terrible things to my character. You know, like, I just put him through the ringer, and there was so much fantastic story that came out of that. But there were people who were really upset that I was doing this to my character. Like, you didn't even have, like, it wasn't even you. I didn't even do this to you. So I wonder if, like, people will be more willing to put their characters into situations like that under these circumstances. I'm not really sure, but
yeah, I mean, it maybe depends on the player, as I think it did in the Mushroom, but probably something to be said for that more visceral feeling you get when you're on the mush and a referee actually does a command that changes your sheet and adds, you know, damage to your sheet and says, oh, you're being injured or you've been crippled and now you are going to be rolling negatives and all this stuff. Where in Slack, we don't do that. We don't see that sort of thing. So maybe people will feel a little freer. I think people should feel free anyway to try to experiment with that. But it's understandable for some folks that, you know, I'm an alcoholic. I play all kinds of characters, and I have, you know, a bevy of things that I could play depending on whatever mood I'm in. Less of an easy task to give up a character like that when that is your only character.
Yeah.
You know, if the only person you're playing is this character is your inroad to other space, and that's the only thing you want to focus on, then, you know, I can see somebody being upset if, well, the story has dictated that you made some choices and your character is now going to die. Well, I don't want to go make a new character. I don't want to accept that as the finish for my character, which is, you know, another reason I'm not super eager to kill off characters. But you know, it's always appreciated when it's like, you know, when you're talking about a character that you'd be willing to see go if the situation's right for it, or seeing Mika tell me in the middle of the Galaxy Galleria thing, here's my plan, I'm going to go out in a big blaze of glory, and she ran the whole thing by me, and I'm like, well, if you're sure you want to do it, okay, go for it. Because, you know, I think that every once in a while stories need to have you got a blood for the blood god thing from time to time. And I think we've been giving plenty. I think that you know, it doesn't have to be the central characters that are doing the dying. I think central characters doing the suffering. I love the idea of, you know, putting everybody through hell. But saving, you know, you don't kill Ned Stark till the end of the book. You don't just kill people off randomly all the time. There's got to be, it's a payoff for something else. I mean, for Ned, it was digging deeper and deeper into this thing where he knew something was there. He proved something was there. And then once he had proved it, a terrible mistake of telling somebody, somebody very close to all this information, that he knew all this. And then that was the payoff. So, I mean, if Razorback runs up to Lord Fagin and says, I know this about you. Then
that's not going to go well.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily see Razorback doing that. I see, you know, Razorback, rather than letting that word get back to Lord Fagin, throws a guy out a window.
Right. He was like, if they find out that I was personally here, I mean, like, he took major precautions to make sure that it would be very difficult to connect him to that situation.
Yeah.
You know, and
you're going to have to kill. He's going to have to kill Coldclaw to totally make sure nobody will ever know. But Coldclaw's still out there, and I'm actually thinking it'll be kind of interesting if Rex ends up meeting Coldclaw. So you're going to have all these characters that are interacting, because Coldclaw is obviously going to be the CIS guy that's on Citadel waiting to talk to Levante, which is going to get really schizo for me when I try to do that scene. But that'll be coming soon. But yeah, it's. I think that it should be a little easier for players to not just to take risks with their characters in Slack, but to just get involved, period. I mean, remember when the argument was, I can't get to Centauri from here, or I have no motivation to go to Tomankora, or I have... Come up with a motivation. Create a character.
Or just make a new person and put them there. Like,
yeah, exactly. Come up with a reason that you've got to come up with a character who would have a reason to be in that place and put them there, and then see what happens. I mean, it's improv. You're going in and you're going to see how that character plays out. You may decide, you know, halfway through your scene with Odell and Cam and Poe, Briggs in the Tomankora pub, that your character is just a throwaway. I'm not really having fun with this character, so I'm going to do something to make everybody mad and get myself shot.
Yeah.
So suddenly,
although I am kind of really digging that frenemies vibe going on there. That is really interesting.
It's a trip. It's a trip.
But like Brex with like. I created that character because I couldn't think of a way to, you know, getting Shinnok on the Katharina's Pride. That was a stretch. Like, that was really, I mean, because he's active duty military on Paracon. Like, it's like I had to really kind of stretch that out a little bit to make that make sense. Getting on I've never had a consortium character ever. Like, certainly not a Vanguard character. I didn't even have anybody that I could like reach back through my mental file and pull out, and it's cool. So I created a new guy. I created Vrex.
Yeah, and there are characters that can fit those bills and you know, hit the buttons that you're wanting to explore right now. It's like Vetchkov is one that I always kind of come back to, and Stunt Paw, certainly. My Grumpy Old Men. So I have no idea why those characters are kind of appealing to me right now. But at the same time, I'm, playing the confused young guy, playing Armand Levante, who is kind of a hapless, loser, caught up in this. He's almost like he's out of a Coen Brothers movie. And his brother is not far out of a Coen Brothers movie. I mean, I think he's more like Fargo, and I think Armand is probably more like The Raising Arizona. He'll be more the funny, lighter side of the hapless thing, and Rodrigo's probably got a bloody end waiting for him. So that's kind of interesting for me to explore what's happening with them. And then I've just got my character like Cold Claw, who is really just like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of stuff. He's fun to play with when I get a chance.
I do enjoy that he didn't like completely dismiss when Razor was basically threatening him and saying, if you try to use me to do messed up stuff, there will be consequences. And Cold Claw was like, okay, I get it.
Yep. Oh no, you'll know if he asks you to do it, and if you say yes, that's awesome, and if you say no, that may be okay. I don't know.
Well, it's one of those things where it would be really easy to point Razor in the wrong direction and cause all kinds of chaos and destruction.
Yeah.
And he's aware of the fact that it's a weak point for him, and so he's basically like getting ahead of that, saying, "Look, I know that can happen. Just understand that if it does happen, I'm going to be coming for you."
Yeah. And I think Cold Claw as a character, he understands weapons of all kinds.
Yeah.
And especially weapons that have their own conscience.
Yes.
So much more dangerous than a guided missile sometimes.
Yes.
So it's interesting to play with him.
And I've really enjoyed the interactions between Stunt Paw and Razorback, because they are very similar in certain ways. They're both very shrewd. They both are able to really look at a person and kind of get what they're after and what they're about. It's very easy to forget. It's easy for me to forget sometimes while I'm playing Razor in his current iteration that he was basically running something almost the size of the Consortium 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I have to remember to make sure to remember that he thinks about these things politically as well. He is a mayhem machine, but he's also, he also is a politician on a lot of levels.
Yeah, a mayhem machine that has some polish.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it.
Yeah. So I want to get back to Stunt Paw and the Damarian stuff in the near future. I'm having fun with the Magnificent Seven thing.
Yeah.
I think that was a fun side plot to do.
Yeah. It's
before much longer. But I think it's kind of cool seeing. First of all, the Magnificent Seven plot gets us. Raisin's character is now in their hands, now playing there. We've got Kolchak playing in there. We got a good mix of characters that wouldn't have been there if we hadn't started doing this little plot. If we hadn't wandered into the village and got caught up in this. I like seeing consequences like that. So hopefully White Pelt survives, and I get to do more with him.
Yeah. No, he's really cool. Yeah. I really like that character that you put together for that. That is, has he ever existed before? Or?
No. It was one of those things where I said, well, I'm going to make a character that is brand new. It's just somebody that doesn't necessarily fit my normal character type. It's almost like a Timine and a Damarian body thing.
Yeah.
Boom, he's here, and let's see where he goes. I mean, he is definitely one of those characters where I'm like, well, if he dies, he's cannon fodder, that's okay. But he's also one of those where I think, well, he could be a character that if he really took off, he could be another vampire kind of character for me, or a character that, or Gettleman is another one where I felt like I treated them as kind of a throwaway to start with, but then they grew on me over time. Whereas, I mean, Stuntpaw has never been a throwaway character for me. He's always been, the little Damarian that was there by example to kind of show people, here's how I expect you to play a Damarian noble. That's supposed to be the way. Battle scars, and there's all this stuff, but you're also devoted to your family and your house, and all that sort of thing.
What I think is hilarious is the Magnificent Seven plot is Razorback's version of laying low.
Yeah.
He just can't help himself. It's not even possible for him to do that. He laid low for like the first 2 years of his existence as a character. And that was it. After that, all of a sudden, as soon as he wound up in the Ancient Expanse, it became completely impossible for him to lay low.
Yep. And so he became who he is now.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
But, Cam just posed.
Yeah, I see that, and my phone went ding over that.
All right, guys. All right, looks like Wes is going to be coming back in a bit. I'm going to pause the broadcast, but I'll be back in a bit. So I'll see you guys then.